365 Sports, joined by Chris Level, Red Raider color analyst, broadcaster, also at Texas Tech and also with RedRaidersports.com. Chris, thanks for your time. We're trying to decide, is Texas Tech on the radar in the Big 12, but are they on the radar, in your opinion, nationally?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's lots of opinions out there. I think there's a lot of people that think they need to be on the radar for whatever that may be, and then there's a lot of people going, "Hey, tap the brakes!" Like they haven't. They won 8 games last year. Let's slow down, whether it be the conference or nationally. I think they have a lot back. I think they have a lot of momentum. I think there is plenty of reason to question it all too. Can the quarterback stay healthy? Can they win close games again this year? They haven't done it before. And so it's all fair. But I think they are probably a dark horse for the Big 12 title. But I think that some people feel like maybe there's this TCU thing that they could kind of go on a run and maybe have an outside chance at the playoff. But that, man, I don't know if we'll ever see, the TCU thing again, anytime soon, because they had and you guys saw it firsthand there in Waco. We had so many games like that where if it didn't go their way, they stayed relatively healthy. So I just don't know if that is quite possible. I think that realistically around here, you're simply just trying to see if you can get to Arlington and then see where that takes you. And if you do get to Arlington, you're probably in the mix for, something, whether it's the Big Six Bowl or the playoff or whatever.
Chris, if they don't live up to whatever expectations there are, just positive expectations, at least, matching next year, you mentioned just not winning the close games could be a reason why, or health. But is there anything personnel-wise? Is there a particular position group that they're, not as sure about, or are they pretty loaded across the board from what you can tell?
The way I would answer that question is I think the strength of their team is lack of weakness, in that they really have depth and starters everywhere. I mean, it's so much is back. I mean, they lost Tyree Wilson, okay, their best player. Make no mistake, he was a stud. However, it's worth mentioning they did win. I guess he got hurt. They went on that 4-game winning streak to finish the season. He got hurt in that first of that 4 games, and he didn't play in the other 3. And I think other guys stepped up and played well. I think that Sir Roderick Thompson's not going to be easy to place. He was just a guy that found the end zone all the time. And they graduated a kicker that I thought a lot of. He was 21 of 25. Kicker sounds funny to have in this conversation, but Trey Wolf is in the Titans camp right now. He played a vital role last year. They've got an experienced guy in here that did it at Houston Baptist and all those things. But if he doesn't make, those makeable kicks and kick make those clutch kicks, you don't beat Texas last year. You don't beat Houston. There was just several different, clutch kicks that he made. And so I hate to say kicker, but that is clearly something that I think factors in here. And then the other spot on paper anyway is inside linebacker. They graduated both of those guys, Costa Eldridge and Krishawn Merriweather, that were very productive, very healthy, kind of steady all season long. And they're having to replace those guys. But that's as good as I can offer up on paper. Now, I would say to you, I do think a question that I have personally, do they have enough star power to make it to the conference championship game and things like that? They may have it. We just don't necessarily know who that is yet. But I don't think there's a Deuce Vaughn or a Quentin Johnston that's emerged on this team just yet. And maybe Tyler Shuck can be that guy if he can stay healthy. I don't know, but I think it's a fair criticism for the kinds of conversations we're having.
Was Tyler Shuck at the end who Tyler Shuck was thought to be?
Yeah, David, I think he was this is who – he's won the job here 3 years in a row. It's well documented. He's 8-1 as a starter in games that he started. The one loss was when he went out I think it was the end of the first quarter for early second when he broke his collarbone in Austin. When he's healthy, he's really good. It's just he just can't. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I think you're wanting to see what life would look like if he can play, 11, 12, or 13 games, because I think he'll like the results. And he's He's a little taller than 6'3", about 235. I think NFL folks, they love him, but they want to see the same thing we're talking about here. Can you be durable enough, and accurate enough and consistent enough? Because we haven't seen, a big body of work just yet. But he's got all the measurables. He treats this, college right now like he's a pro already. He's up there all the time. I mean, he's just, he's a 23, 24-year-old kid, and I think he's really treating in this thing like a professional opportunity to try to get to the next level. But again, got to stay healthy.
Chris, your thoughts about the timeline as the season begins, the Micah Hudson watch. We know all about the recruitment, Tech, UT. Where would you say, and I'm not going to, if it was a 100% pie, how much of that pie do you think trends towards Lubbock or Austin?
I think he's going to wait. I think that he probably knows where he's going to go. I mean, obviously, if you talk to people up here, they feel good about it. I'm sure that they feel good about the things in Austin. And I think there was a time when the folks at A&M felt really good about things as well, because I think there were some rumors that, there was this A&M get-together and this Tech get-together on the same day about a month ago, right before camp started and all those things. And people were in both places were reporting he was going to end up at their place that weekend. He was up in Lubbock, obviously. But I think he's going to wait to decide where maybe it kind of impacts the recruiting class. I think he may, if he's a Tech commit, I think he'll be one of the last guys to commit to their class just to kind of put a bow on it. If it's Texas, I think it'll go down the wire, and he may see what he wants to see there. But I would say, again, it's hard for me to answer that question because I'm only getting one side of the story.
Sure.
But I may go 70-30, 80-20 in favor of Texas Tech there.
Chris, what have you made of the realignment landscape and the Big 12's heavy involvement over the last couple of years, and just what came out of that a couple of weeks ago with the Pac-12 schools deciding? I mentioned it to Kirby Hocutt of Texas Tech was at one point the westernmost school, and now they got 5 schools I think that are going to be farther west in the U.S. But your thoughts just from the Tech point of view, your own point of view as a guy who's watched the Big 12 a long time on the conference changes.
Yeah, I will tell you that I think I will be the first one to tell you I missed the first version of the Big 12. That was my favorite. I think that was a great league. I get why it's not together anymore. But considering all the trials and tribulations schools like Baylor and Tech and everybody else have kind of gone through, not really sure how things were going to shake out, I think you've done really well here. You're not in the best league. You're not in the second best league financially or otherwise, but I love the geographic fit. I'm going to miss some of the regional rivalries that we're not going to get anymore. I mean, Texas Tech is, I think Tech and Baylor and Tech and TCU and Tech and Oklahoma State, they've got to play every year going forward in everything, because that's as close as you're going to get to anything meaningful, regionally. And that kind of is sad. I mean, there's no more Texas or Oklahoma or Arkansas or anything like that on anybody's schedules anymore. And I think that's disappointing, that there's no more Bedlam, stuff like that. But considering what you had to work with, I think Bob Bowlesby / Brett Yormark hit a home run. I think that they've, I think a lot of it fits. I think that you don't have to go to the far West Coast and play games at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I think that it's going to create some revenue here to where it creates some relevancy going forward. I think you can do some things with it. I think basketball got better, not worse. And now I'm sitting back and I'm kind of fascinated at what happens next in that. How do they schedule this deal? We doing pods? We doing divisions? I mean, that's to me is as important as anything on how they're going to decide football. And then basketball wise, same deal, but there's a lot to work with. I love what they were able to do, and I think Brett Yormark even said this was the dream scenario. This is what we were all kind of, privately rooting for, because you knew you had kind of won. If something like this happens, your league is going to be okay, and you kind of got who you wanted, and I think they largely did that.
Go ahead. It's amazing because it's been there 2 or 3 times where they were on the other side of it, where the Pac-12 was, and survived, and actually survived. So then to come out of it the way they are, The one thing about the uniqueness of the Big 12 is everybody played everybody in football. I know that's gone. And I saw Scott Drew last night, and he said you knew you were going to play everybody twice. In Lubbock, home against Texas Tech. And that he's going to miss that too, and he's interested on how the schedule might be formulated because you could get an uneven schedule that way based on the algorithms.
Well, I mean, we remember the Big 12 North and South. I think if you were in the South in football anyway, it was extremely lopsided. You know, Iowa State at the time wasn't very good. Kansas wasn't very good. I mean, you know, it was extremely lopsided. So if you finished second or third or fourth in the Big 12 South in some years, you were really second or third or fourth in the league. Mm-hmm. And it kind of gave you a weird championship game between the North and the South. And so I don't know what I kind of hope that they do, you know, the pod thing where they kind of smaller groups and there's more crossover games. Because I think it's really dumb that the SEC and the Big Ten, some of these schools are playing each other every 4 or 8 years. I just think that's ludicrous to me.
Me too.
You don't even feel like you're in the same league as those schools. And I think it's, you know, they all need to, you know, every other year, there's got to be something where you're playing all these schools in a semi-regular basis. But again, I get the point of we want to put our best position and foot forward on trying to get our team, our champion, to the league title game too. So hopefully there's a happy medium there where they can find it. And I will miss the round robin in football and basketball as much as anybody. It was as clean a way to figure out who the best was as anything out there. And that is lost. So those are some of the things that are kind of sad by what has happened with realignment. But hey, man, them's the apples.
Chris, I wanted to ask about one player in particular, as shifting back to football real quick. Jaron Bradley, who had a monster year last year. I know they got a lot of, young, talented guys on offense, but just what's kind of the expectation for the next step for him, would you say?
Yeah, he's, obviously first team all conference, and I think there is a next step that he needs to take. I think if he does that, he maybe has a chance to have a decision to make at the end of this year, whether he wants to stay here or not. I think, he's got the measurable component. He's 6'5", 215, 220. I think speed has always been a bit of just pure speed. He plays the position really big. So it's one of those throw it up and he will go get it. But he's got I think consistency is where he needs to be better. I think that he really turned it on last year. I think the last 3 games of the season, he had 260 yards receiving, and in the 4 or 5 previous, he had like 110. So he really turned it on at the end of the year, and it equaled a good year, and he's a red zone threat, but it needs to be consistent game in and game out. That's what the NFL folks would want to see. But he's one of these guys. Maybe he is got it in him to where he kind of emerges as a Quentin Johnston type or Xavier Worthy or somebody that can win you a game or take it over. But we just haven't quite seen that yet. But they're going to need somebody, and maybe plural, to kind of do that if they want to get to where they want to go. But he would be a prime candidate for that.
Man, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Chris Level, Red Raider Sports. We hope to have you on during the season. Texas Tech in their first game at Wyoming. And